and welcome. It's Howard from Bali Beginnings, and I'm here with Leslie just discussing an exit interview. So, Leslie, how are you feeling?
Hi, everyone. I am feeling very, very relieved in a way, but also so that mixed feeling of, time coming to an end. Um, it's been fabulous here. And just this morning, having had some really great news about further support has made my day brighter than normal. So,
Mm.
yes, I'm feeling really, really, really good.
And you said it's been really good here. One thing we kind of
Uh,
pride ourselves, is just being really good and comfortable won't
mm,
get you well.
that's right.
That's right. So, do you feel it's been challenging as well?
Yes, yes. So yes, I see what you mean. It has been challenging. I've also had health issues, which have sort of added to the challenge.
Mm.
The education classes have been quite enlightening, and in a couple of the classes, I must admit, I was brought to tears by realizations of things in the past that I just hadn't known. So I found them very, very effective.
Mm.
And in that way, both emotionally and physically, I've been challenged
Okay.
a lot.
In good challenged or bad challenged?
Oh, good. Though there's always challenge is a tough word because it means it's not easy. So
Mm.
yes, I've been challenged both physically in a bad way, mentally
Ah,
in a good way.
yeah.
So
Physically by your health,
yes, by my
rather than
health. Yeah.
us,
No,
you
no.
know,
Yeah.
making you carry a cross
That's
up a
right.
mountain
That's
or
right.
something.
That's right. No, unfortunately, the challenge has been my own health, but the challenge of learning anything new and really taking it to heart, especially if you feel that you've been through something similar before and that you might know that information. Letting yourself be open and learn more and learning things that well, you didn't know you really didn't know.
Mm.
Um, I think there's a preconception of what it can be like in rehab, and so it's been really great to see that that's not necessarily the case, and that in itself can be challenging because of change.
And interesting you mentioned that because this is your fifth rehab?
This is my fifth rehab, my last rehab. Wood, touch wood. No, my last rehab. The difference, I was trying to identify the difference myself in not only how I'm feeling about my experience, but why I feel that it will be the last rehab. And to me, it's because it's a much more immersive sort of experience for me. Not only is it a different country, but it's it's the closeness of living with people of a variety of ages and backgrounds is something that you find in every rehab. However, here it's much more of a family-based
Mm.
feeling. You really come in and you connect on a very deep level,
Mm.
um, possibly due to the smaller number of people than maybe my previous rehabs. Um, but it's been I don't want to say spiritual. I've never been an overly religious person, but I've felt that here I've really gotten to know a spiritual side of myself that I didn't realize I had. Um, so I have a feeling I'm going to go home and my kids are going to think I've gotten into some crystals and a lot of spiritual energy they haven't seen. Um, but that's been probably one of the biggest differences is that I felt more connected to nature, more connected to the weather, swimming in the rain, things like that. Um, so I think those are the main differences that I can reel off the top of my head.
And I almost interrupted you, but paused because, yeah, don't want to interrupt you. So much I could add back to that. Because one thing I'd say is, yeah, the smaller is intentional, and we've agreed. In fact, something that's top secret is we're actually building a second facility,
Ooh.
and it's also going to be a limited number because we found a sweet spot. Yeah, we could find a 20-bed facility like
Yeah.
others, and it would be a lot more profitable
Mm.
because of economies of scale. but we're not about a lot more
Yeah.
profitable. We're about quality of care. And absolutely, I fundamentally believe the level of care you get in a smaller group is better, let alone
Yeah.
our staffing ratios are higher. Our staffing ratios are better with 7, 8 than some of the rehabs on the island that take 12, 16. And we
Absolutely.
have
Yeah.
higher quality stuff and better. But yeah, because in a bigger group, certainly I've experienced quieter voices get drowned out, other voices get drowned out. Big voices,
Mm.
personalities dictate, dominate, control. Bit of office politics, cliques can form
Yeah.
unintentionally. I've never really got dragged into cliques. Everyone tells me they happen. I'm oblivious.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Well, there
do,
you go
definitely.
then.
And I think that's one of the things that I meant about it, getting to know people as a family here. Um, you do have those different personalities. And when you have a large group, there's a lot more drama. There's a lot more, um, you know, posturing. There's a lot more opinions that it just creates a sort of an environment where conflict really
And
can
negativity.
yeah, and negativity can arise. Yeah.
And people always complain in rehab because you're doing so much internal work, it's easy to focus on the external. You've got a lot of time. We intentionally give people a lot
Mm.
of time so they can focus on sitting with feelings,
Hmm.
processing. Distraction can be a healthy therapeutic technique, but actually, constant distraction doesn't allow you to sit with a
Hmm.
therapeutic value of being in discomfort, being
Yes.
uncomfortable, being frustrated, being angry, not aggressive, aggressive, not okay, being angry, being sad, all
Mm.
these feelings, and then l- having to use the tools you're being
Mm.
taught or reach out, communicate with people
Yeah,
is just so valuable.
it is. And I think another of the big differences I noticed was that in prior rehabs, it's been so structured that it's literally been, minute to minute to minute. So 10 minutes for meditation, and then you had 5 minutes to get to your room, to get changed, to do something else. You didn't have time to relax with what you had just been involved with. And especially with the education groups,
Mm.
you need time to process that, to
You-
go and journal or to, write letters home, which is what I've often just, written something quickly. Um, and because you'll get these little gems in those sessions that you might not remember if you don't write them down straight away. And
mm.
you'll think, what was that? That was such a clever thing that person said. And yeah, you've forgotten it.
I'm
So,
glad I smiled big when you used the word processed because that's exactly what I was going to say. So when we were reopening after COVID, I spoke to our old clinical director, Dr. Terry, and said, "Hey, why don't we do 3 therapy sessions a week?" And he said, actually, and there are the odd exception to this,
mm,
perhaps intensive trauma programs.
mm,
Don't know on that. But he said, no, there's no extra value in doing 3 a week. In fact, in some ways, less value because the value in 2 therapy sessions a
mm,
week isn't just the therapy session, it's the time in between where you
mhm,
process, you collect, you reflect, you sit in discomfort.
mm,
You you speak to people potentially about some of the things you've discussed in counseling. That processing is fundamentally
uh,
vital. It's basically where our brain, um, like archives and stores and all the information we've
mhm,
set. So if you just overload, 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 which is why I'm not a big fan of schools, overload, 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 I took barely anything in
mm,
school. Now, yeah, interesting actually, because I'm ADHD, and I don't use that as an excuse. Still studied counselling and other things. You're very academic, so it's interesting to me that someone with we're almost extremes on that. I'm very much hate studying, and you very much love studying.
mm,
So it's interesting. We both have the same feeling about the gaps between the education and sessions, and not
yeah.
overloading it.
And something you didn't mention, which I found really interesting, and actually it's been really powerful for me, is that in prior rehabs, we've had the same counselor. It's the same person that you meet each day. They learn your story, and that's wonderful. But I've been able to create different dynamics with two very different counselors, both male and female. And in the past, females had their female counselors, male had
Really?
their, yes. So I found that at my first session a little bit of a challenge for me to accept. But in the long term now, I've found that it's been wonderful to get the two vastly different personalities and to hear their responses to, the questions that they've asked me. And um, I think that's actually a really big strength of this program, because it's not a common, I don't think it's a common
No.
process method used. So it's been something that I look forward to each week, and I look forward to there's such vastly different people.
Hmm.
It's wonderful. Um, so that's another thing that I think is really in Bali Beginning's favor,
Yeah.
and it's something that I don't know if it's advertised on the
We've
website, or
never mentioned that
never mention it.
anywhere before, so which now I feel silly in a sense because yeah, and what you may not probably don't know because we don't really talk about it is they collaborate in the sense of they collaborate on their approaches, so they
Hmm.
intentionally target different
Mm.
approaches, give you different tasks when you are out of therapy,
Yep.
intentionally kind of work down different roots of your tree of your life, so to
Mm.
speak, intentionally to evoke and create different things. And having two personalities in general, people connect differently with different therapists, so it gives you
Yes.
two. Some may like me more when I was counseling, or some may like Simone more,
Mm.
some may like Gabby more, some may like Jill more, so it also then gets us to tap into, it gives us different options for people to really lean in one and actually a
Mm.
contrast with one and the other. This one's okay. Well, no one really complains, but
Mm.
this one's great. Then you naturally lean more into that because of the contrast.
Well, I found it. I found one of the sessions, a particular week. Sorry, so two sessions, was fascinating because it was when I was reading my sort of life timeline to both of my counselors, and what they pick up on
Mhm.
in that timeline was vastly different. And yes, I know they would collaborate, at some point. Um, but the questions that were asked were different.
Yeah.
The directions in which we were going with conversations were different. So I came away from having read the same information to both of my counselors. I came away with almost twice the amount of sort of insight and knowledge than I would have
Absolutely.
had it been the same counselor over and over.
And what you may not realize is actually more than twice because then later you process both bits and you actually, almost if you put green, blue, and yellow together, you
Mm,
get some green,
yep.
so the sum of the parts, the whole is greater than the sum of the
Mm.
parts,
Yeah, it's kind of
potentially.
like a Venn diagram.
Ooh.
And in that middle bit is your green bit. Yeah.
Fancy words. I like it.
Yep.
Fantastic. Venn
There you
diagram.
go.
Venn diagram of therapy.
There you go.
And they're also fundamentally trained different.
Yes.
They've both done different aspects of psychology at bachelor's.
Hmm.
Simone's clinical psychologist. Gabby's then done her master's in psychotherapy.
Hmm.
She chose, I think it's Austria, which she, because it's kind of the home of psychotherapy
Mm.
and stuff like that. So fun. And I'm a different style of counseling as well, person centered. So the other thing, so this is also big. Well, I'm a big advocate of groups. So you mentioned you came up with different things from the same story. Individual private rehab has its place, absolutely, especially for certain groups, demographics, or needs.
Hmm.
But this is why I'm a fan of a lot of group work, if possible, as well, because you said you came up with one set of things with one therapist, one with another. Well, in a group, you'll only ever come up with your perception
Mm.
and their ideas, your perception, their ideas. In the group, someone, let's say David, because he's the cameraman and won't break anonymity, say David might say, oh, this happened to me. And suddenly
Mm.
you get a light bulb moment and
Mm.
go, Holy crap. And you would never have explored that with either therapist because it's
That's
not
right.
in your understanding, your frame of reference. So,
Yeah,
really, the group behavior really highlights, adds extra things that you would never ever uncover in a one-to-one basis.
absolutely. And I actually asked permission in one of our sessions of the um, our counselor, or our, we call them remote controls now, the RC, to
Hey.
I asked whether it was all right if I wrote down notes, and then I asked other um, clients if it was all right with them, because for me, again, as you said, we come from these vastly different backgrounds, and academically, if I write something down, I'm going to remember it. But I also like looking back at periods in which those light bulb moments happen, because you can find patterns,
Mm,
you can find answers
mm,
which
mm, mm, mm.
you just didn't think you could. So I've got my little notebook, and everyone said, not a problem. Obviously, there are issues that you would not write down. There are times that it's not appropriate.
Confidential. Yeah.
Um, but those light bulb moments happen a lot,
Yeah.
and although academically I may have done a lot, my brain has kind of emptied itself by now. I think it's deleted what I haven't used in the last 20 years, and writing things down is a way for me to remember them. So,
Interestingly, and we get people to do a fair amount of writing here, and it uses different parts of
mm,
the brain, so it connects things differently to people. It helps them remember them, as does connecting emotion, which is
mm,
another trick we use in some. Education is more than education if
mm,
you want it to be. One thing I learned this, I remember when I was doing my degree in electrical engineering. I'm awful at remembering, and I used to get really frustrated doing some exams because I said, I can smash the maths.
mm.
I'm one of those cool kids who's really good at maths, unfortunately. But I can smash the maths, but I can't remember the formulas. Why do we have to remember the formulas?
Mhm.
When I'm doing this, I'm not going to have to remember a complex formula
Exactly.
or,
Yeah.
but so someone said to me, a guy, Anthony, is probably also one of us, an alcoholic like me, bless him. He said, I copy my notes. I went, you just copy your notes? Yeah, I literally, the notes I made in class, when I'm studying, I rewrite them word for word. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense, but I'm rubbish at remembering. So actually, I didn't realize it, but back then I wanted a better way of living with this. So
Mhm.
I tried it, and it was almost like I was doing it on autopilot. So unlike when I tried to study, this was the first time I really tried to study because I
Mm.
wanted to better my life. I was sick of my life and where it was going, which was very ominous for what would happen.
Mm.
But I actually tried copying it, and I don't even really remember taking it in. Unlike when I tried to read it and go, "Yep, a squared plus b squared equals c
Mm.
squared." I just copied it word for word, 3 or 4 pages, and I remembered it.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
have no idea how, like, honestly, it didn't feel like I was taking any of it in, but just copying it word for word, formula for formula,
Mm.
I remembered every bit of it, like he said.
I I I did the same. So I would listen in class, and you end up, looking out the window. But I would rewrite my notes every night, and for me, it was partly to look back at them later on if you're going to be studying their exams, whatever. But also because I would remember things auditorily that I hadn't written down. So I'd write them down because visually, that's how I remember things.
Yeah.
So I think that we've got a wide range of people here who remember different things.
Yes.
So
Yes.
some of us are better at sort of creative writing. Some of us are better at much more technical bullet point. And it all seems to work. All
Mm.
seems to mesh. So um, yeah.
Exactly that, because we have different learning
Mm,
styles. One of my frustration with the schooling system, our chairman, non-executive director, is a doctor of education, and he's really frustrated constantly trying to change the schooling system in the UK. I think it was Einstein or someone said, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree,
Yes.
you'll end up believing everyone's stupid.
Mm,
My schooling, in many aspects, I went to a top three school in the UK, but I was one of the bottom achievers. I've come to learn I'm a kinesthetic
mm,
learner, which means I learn much better with my hands. Some people
mm,
learn from dictation, some people by
mm,
writing. So we intentionally use a different range of
mm.
techniques and different practices because there isn't one solution for us
No.
all.
And my son actually is very much like you are.
Yeah.
He's on the spectrum, and he used to get so upset because he wouldn't he would just answer the questions in the maths class. He wouldn't write out how he got there, and the teacher would say, you haven't written out your work, and he'd say, well, is the answer correct? I say yes, and he's like, well, isn't that what matters? And he used to get in so much trouble for doing that. Um, when they do the standardized scoring, of course, and testing, he would be off the scale. I mean, very, very smart kid, just does not learn the way the other kids learn.
Mm, mm.
And it took him a long time to realize that he had to fit in, and to do the work that was required of him, even though it absolutely infuriated his parents. Um, so yes, I understand that part of it. Very,
Yeah, yeah.
very, very
And
clearly.
it isn't easy. It's easy to make all these, complaints. It isn't easy to do a whole school system that works with millions of
Yeah,
people a year. So it's
yeah.
not an easy fix. So,
No.
but anyway, I'm digressing, which is my fault. Um, what would you say? So we got a family dynamic. I'm trying to think on differences between your other experience. I would say, so when I'd say intentions one, and I'll tell you why. I'll give you an example. Some people have said to me, I've come here and said, I've seen 3 or 4 psychologists, and your counseling with you has been far better than any other
Mm,
psychologist. And I said, thank you. Really appreciate that. Very touched. But I would counter that by saying, I imagine also your intention may be different than
mm,
it was with them. So
yep.
intent, and I say that because intention is so important, why we try our best to only pick people who are as ready as possible and want to be here, want to do the work, willing to try everything
Mm,
within reason, even if they don't like it. Willingness is everything. So
mhm.
would you say your willingness and intent is different to the other rehabs?
Well, my big saying in coming here, especially with the idea of a higher power or the 12-step sort of programs that I've done in the past, is that I'm willing to be willing.
Mm,
So I'm sort of that one step towards that willingness. But here it's opened up a lot more. And yes, I'm absolutely willing to do the work. The intent, I have to say, the intent was probably quite similar
okay.
in many of when I did reach out for help.
Well, that
Um,
makes us seem better, so I'll take that.
yeah, well, it is because you reach a point where they say desperation is a
Gift of
gift, the gift of
desperation, yeah.
desperation. So you do reach out with the same sort of intention, but if you can't connect with that person on the phone or on Zoom or however you've contacted them, um, it's not going to work. And that's what I had found in my other attempts. So my intention was there, um, but here is the only place where it's really meshed with both the willingness to open up to the spiritual nature of um, the program,
Mhm.
and that partly, of course, is due to the environment. Um, but when you do get people who come into rehab and their intent is to have everything done exactly in a particular way, and everything has to be, down to fluffing a cushion, which I've had myself written up for, not fluffing
Not
a
here,
cushion.
not here.
Not here, by the way. I with that a caveat there.
We're
Um,
okay if you don't fluff up a cushion.
yeah, no, I'd get a demerit
This is my
point.
cushion, then you'll get written up.
Demerit point for that one.
Wow.
So the intention can vary with where you're going, and it can grow. And I
Yeah.
think that mine has just grown and grown and grown and grown.
Mm.
And that's why when I say this is my last rehab, that fully is my intention.
And it can be. Well, that is why we connect people also to the fellowships like
Mm,
AA and NA, which almost I strongly debated almost didn't do that for opening after COVID, because the biggest problem with AANA is some people don't want it for
mm,
whatever reason, and it's not perfect, and
mm.
that's okay. Religion, God thing seems to be the biggest higher power.
Yeah.
I'm lucky I grew up with a mum who's an atheist who's 36 years in AA, so I knew actually the religion, God thing isn't
Yeah.
accurate for AANA, but I can understand where the
Mm,
misconception comes from. Dave had similar, I think, with his attendance at a
mhm.
meeting. But yeah, so I get that. So I almost didn't open up with AA, and Thomas, one of the investors who saved us after Volcano, saved us again after COVID, and we wouldn't be here without him. Thank you, Thomas, and make you
Thank you,
watch
Thomas.
this. Fantastic guy, truly spiritual, humble guy. He said we have to include AA.
Mm,
The most successful programs in the world have AA, and the way we look at it is, yeah, our aftercare is 2 year now, and we're constantly growing and evolving it. It'll be even better when you leave than what you paid for, which is
yep.
fantastic. But it's 2 years, so what next? And maybe you never use AA, and that's okay. We'd always recommend people connect with it. The opposite of addiction is connection, as we say. But what if you need support in 2.5 years, in
Mm,
5 years, in 10 years? It's free for life. And if it stops you coming back to us,
mhm.
we feel we have a duty to connect you. Set
Absolutely.
as our aim.
Yep.
We don't want you coming back. This shouldn't be a revolving door.
Yep.
Occasionally it is. Relapse is a part of rehab and recovery, which is one of the reasons. I'll be honest, one of the reasons our statistics are higher, a lot higher than the average, is because we don't take people who's not ready. If you're not taking an 18-year-old sent by mum and dad who doesn't want to be there and doesn't
Mm,
have a problem, guess what? Your
yep.
statistics are going to be better.
Yep.
But that brings me back to a point. You mentioned you were willing and hungry before. We don't just take people who are ready for the individual. Obviously, we feel that's valuable and a waste of their money if they're not
Mm,
ready, unless it's life threatening, more so than the average. The group is the big reason
mm,
we do it, because we want the healthiest, most committed group possible. So, do you feel,
mhm.
because we generally take people, and I'm thinking this as a go, because we generally take people who are ready and committed, or try only to, do you feel a difference in the group than the willingness and hunger in the groups you went to before?
Um, it's actually interesting that you say that because the demographics here have been very different. I am by far the oldest person here, and that has been reflected in a variety of way from both staff and clients, in a very nice, sweet way, not in a condescending, there's Nana way, but um, it's there have been times where you will get someone who's been sent by their parents for the fifth, sixth time, and
To other rehabs?
to other rehabs. And here, um, the dynamic very much is people want to be here to learn what to do. AA isn't for everyone, as you said. I am also an atheist. And what I realized, I read the agnostic 12 steps as well, which I love.
Ah,
And what I realized is that, you talked about academia, you can get too caught up with semantics and too caught up with words that really don't mean anything if you're not looking at the big picture. So AA for me is very important in aftercare, and I'm lucky that I have some really great meetings where I live.
hmm.
Um, there are still some people I think who are struggling with that a bit, but they're
Naturally,
early days too.
naturally.
And once you reach that point of knowing that, you don't have to suddenly be, you don't have to be christened in the swimming pool. Um,
Yeah, please, no baptisms here,
no, yeah,
you
no
know?
baptisms. Once you know that and you can actually find your own way to considering what a higher power is, I think that almost everybody I get the feeling that everyone's on that same path,
Mm.
and in other places, I've people come out of AA meetings angry, just
Yeah.
angry.
And if you're forcing them to
Mm,
go, it's different as well. We
yeah.
don't force people. We select people who are willing, and if they're not willing, we don't want to force people,
Mm,
so you don't come to us.
yeah.
And one of the unintended side effects of, we make sure we heavily mention it, of people coming here, and there's absolutely no need to carry it on when you leave, absolutely no obligation, no obligation. But one of the unintended things I found is it helps us test people's readiness and commitment,
Mm,
because we lose a few people because of the AA 12-step aspect,
you
which
do,
I
yeah.
kind of get, but it's more about how hungry and willing are you.
Mm,
If I can't convince you to do something for 28 days only, not a big thing, for 28 days only, it tells me, what else aren't you going to do?
mm,
Not going to do the gym. I'm not going to do education today. It's just, it's sad, but it's a reflection of their readiness and their
yeah.
hunger. So it tells me, okay, if I can't convince you, and to do it begrudgingly is absolutely fine. I started yoga and meditation begrudgingly. I did not want that. Still not the biggest fan of yoga. Do it for my wellness
Mm,
sometimes, but that's the willingness. I'm
mm,
willing to try anything reasonable to get well, to stay well, to keep my mental fitness up. And that's it. It tells me people's desire. If we can't convince you to try for 28 days only, no
yeah.
obligation, then what else aren't you? Then it tells me that you aren't, sadly, quite at the readiness we
Yeah.
need, which, so it's the
For
unintended
success, yeah.
consequence, yeah. And
Yeah.
you mentioned semantics, God, higher power. I always say to people, are you really going to let three
Yeah.
letters stop something that may help you? Three fucking letters,
Mm.
God. 28 days, then fuck off.
I
You don't
just
have
said,
to do it.
"Don't say it.
Yeah.
Just don't say the word.
Don't
You
say
don't want
what.
that." Exactly. I don't know what you're talking about. You're right, and when I said that I was, willing to be willing, that was a big step for me, and it sounds silly, but I, up until that point, had not had ve was very close-minded
Mm,
about so many things, about the AA program, about um, the sort of routines that had to be followed. Um, and here I haven't been. I was very willing to be open to everything, because it was, to me, well, it was the reason I chose to come to Bali Beginnings.
well done. And
So,
higher power, great way of looking at higher power. They were already working in my life in 100 ways.
mm,
Is, well, when I went out with my family, they were almost a higher power because I didn't get in drunk as much. I didn't do
mm,
drugs. When I was at work at first, until it started to slip, that was a higher power
mhm,
that forced me to have a measure of control. Girlfriends sometimes were a higher power that
yeah,
kept me in check. The gym for a while. So higher powers were helping me with drinking
mm,
already, in a sense that I didn't think. And then the group could be a higher power, a
mm,
power greater than you, they say in the rooms. And a group is a power greater than me by myself,
yes,
the aftercare.
yeah,
One thing you did mention is AA and aftercare. Clear thing I want to be distinguished about. Well, a clear thing I want to state. I can't think of the words. We're not scripted, as you can see. Ta-da! Is, and it's a bugbear of mine. AA is not aftercare. We do a comprehensive aftercare, and I think it's a disservice. AA is essentially a free service for
mm,
life that we wholly recommend anyone try to connect with, and very grateful when rehabs do, but it's not aftercare. It really F's me off when rehabs try and claim that this free service is aftercare, because it's not. It's fundamentally not. It's a
yeah,
free service that does not ally with anything and asks you not to put its name to it. So we're not affiliated, connected with AA. We just see the benefits, which is why we try and connect people.
which is wonderful actually, because in the last rehab that I was in, it was touted as 18 months of aftercare, and it was Zoom meetings
AA
of the same
meetings.
Zoom, yes, the same AA meetings that we'd gone to
That's your
during
aftercare.
that
That's I
program.
think that's really naughty. That's why
It is, yeah. And with the higher power thing and not, not realizing that it works in your life all day long, I came up I came up with, what to me was something that I could grasp onto that would stick in my mind, and it was nature, AA, NA, and if you put that all together, it's Nana, and I've just had my first grandchild.
uh,
And so to me, that is my sort of convoluted, but that's my little AA, and I can. Sorry, excuse me, take that out. That's my little higher power is Nana, and I can say it
yeah.
without worrying about saying God or saying anything else. It's
Yeah.
personalized. It's important, and it's love. So
And I guess I have one point, and then I'll leave you with a final question. I love a saying, and this isn't to offend any religious people, so please don't take it with offense. But um, religion is for people who are afraid to going to hell. Spirituality is for people who have been there. And the final question I will ask, which I had in my head and I just forgot. So, dun, 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 dun. Oh, okay. I'll ask this instead.
okay,
Without going into the detailed semantics of the other 5 rehabs, do you feel this has been value for money?
absolutely. And I
Fantastic.
will say it has not been the most expensive rehab, and it's not been the least expensive rehab. And
Cheapest isn't always the best.
absolutely, and neither is the most expensive.
Okay.
So I think that for for me, having had those two extremes, I think this is absolutely value for money. And the aftercare program, I think, is just, I mean, I was almost going to say that's God sent. Been funny. But I think that it's a really, really important part of it, because that part in quite a few rehabs is extra cost
If
on
they
top
do it.
if they
Yeah,
do it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And well, I guess we'll close on this then. We intentionally added it in finally again, and it changed our demographics after COVID because of intent.
mm,
We want people committed to, because it's not just the rehab, it's after. We want people committed to the journey. So if you're not willing to do the aftercare, then you're not willing to commit
mm,
enough for us, then it rules some people out we don't think are ready. So everyone's
definitely.
coming in for
I think they're
education
waiting.
now.
Education.
Yeah, yeah,
Let's learn.
education. Yay. Come on in, guys. We're wrapping
Time
up.
for learning.
That's
All
right,
right.
guys.
Thank
Well,
you
thank
so.
you very
Thank
much.
you.
It's
It's
been an
been.
absolute privilege.
This is my first interview, so I'm feeling quite proud of myself. So thank you.
Well, you have to do another when you come back and pass something on to the other group.
Well, and I'll add one last thing, and that is
Okay.
thank you so much for all of the tweaks that you have been trying to make to help my experience here be the best that it can be,
Where we
because
can.
that's something that not all rehabs do,
The
and that
advantage of being
personalized.
boutique,
Yeah,
higher staff numbers and personalized where we can. Not
yeah,
always possible,
yeah.
but
No,
when we
just
when
with
we
me.
can, we do.
Yeah, just with
Yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah.
Yep. So thank you very much for that.
High five.
Yes.